system is crashing.
Right. So Cindy in our office was going through that process and it crashed in the middle of it. So, so she did give me the documents, but it's a lot of fill in. So I'm trying to avoid it, and I may not be able to.
I'm thinking that, filling it in isn't so, as long as you have the documents in place. And then, of course, we have a whole bunch of questions regarding sort of when this, calculating. Everybody's advice is on the PPP loan is to get your max.
Right. There's no reason not to.
There's no reason not to, right?
Well, wait, there would be the reason not to do that. And folks, I started the recording, so I figure we can just keep going with this. The only reason not to is if you don't believe you can get all of your employees to come back. Because if you don't have a payroll that equals the payroll that you're trying to get forgiven, then that entire loan will not be forgiven, only a portion of it will.
So that's a good question, and there's a two-part, I believe there's a two-part calculation to the best I understand of this, and you can help clarify this. Part of it is the number of employees you have is calculated on your FTEs, correct?
Yes, and then FTE in this case is 30 hours a week.
Right, but we can get that from our ACA reports, but the to get that, you have to get 100% forgiven, you have to fulfill two things. One is the payroll cost as it was calculated, and then we have to figure out, is that calculated from the time of the inception of the loan, or is it calculated from 2/15/19 to 6/30/19? I've seen both, so that's interesting. So times the current, that 8-week period, what your FTEs are in that, and then divided by, you have a choice of which FTE to use. So that's one thing that needs to be fulfilled, or else you'll get a reduction. And then the other is based on reduction in salaries, and you basically have to spend at least 75% of what you spent, is it in the same period of last year, or compared to the most recent full quarter? And no one has an answer to those yet.
So, yeah, a lot of people, I don't know that we will have answers to that, but I've also heard of somebody who is going to go for the PPP loan, and he's going to bring back his chosen staff at a higher rate so that he can compete with the unemployment rate. And
correct.
He believes that he will be able to do 100% of his payroll look back with those same numbers, but with fewer employees.
So in essence, then that was really one of my next questions, and I think that's brilliant. I think whoever's doing that is really insightful, because that means that we can, in essence, give a raise to our employees that are, or at least pay back the money that they've lost wages. Doesn't matter how we make up that money.
You can also calculate tips in there too. So those people who were making tips, you can bring them back with those higher wages, not just with a minimum wage.
Correct.
And it pays for health insurance and things like that. So I'm not going to get into that today, necessarily, because we do have a CPA coming on tomorrow that I saw a 5-minute video that he did for his clients, and he's well versed in this. He is the CPA that was helping the gentleman that is bringing back his staff at a higher rate. So you can ask that question tomorrow.
I really appreciate that. Can I have one other question for that CPA before we go too far? In this maximum loan calculation, is that number, does it mean anybody that makes, so an owner operator, if they make over $100,000, is it up to $100,000 that you can include, or do you not include them at all if they make over $100,000?
That I've been wondering myself. Does anybody know the answer to that?
Yeah, this is Michael Calhoun with Red River Brewing Company. My understanding after talking with an accountant earlier this morning is you can include up to $100,000 for each employee that makes above 100,000.
That's the same thing that my CPA told me today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
That.
Sorry to be so long-winded and take up so much of the beginning of this conversation. I appreciate it, Carol.
Don't worry about it. I don't have too much for this particular call because we do have Brad Beasley coming on tomorrow, and he is an accountant, and I really would prefer if he answered your accounting questions rather than me, but I do have some knowledge about this. So I want to go over some of the stuff that you guys need to know. Brad Beasley is going to be on tomorrow at 3. I sure hope you can be here because he's really availed himself of the Payroll Protection Program. And I'm going to send him a question that we got today. And I don't know if you guys understand the employee retention tax credit. So you're supposed to, I think, get up to $10,000 per employee as a tax credit, but only up to 50% of their wages. So I'm looking at that for the association because we can't take advantage of the Payroll Protection Program. And I think other people might look at that as well. So I will have answers for you on those tomorrow. If you don't have it up yet and you still have employees in your business, you need to post this poster, which is the employee rights poster. And you can download the poster here. It basically tells them that they have the right to sick pay if they have COVID or if somebody in their family has the virus. And we went over this yesterday, so I won't go over it today, but please post that in your restaurants. This is a really good summary of the CARES Act, and it comes from the National Restaurant Association. So for some of those questions that you have, especially particularly about restaurant questions for the CARES Act, please read that. It's got some good Q&A on it. This is the national survey, and they're still taking survey questions. That's where we got our information that you're going to see coming out. There's quite a few newspapers that have found our information interesting on how many restaurants have closed. At the point that we did this survey, no restaurants had closed, but 5% of the restaurants that took the survey said that they would have to permanently close within the next 30 days if this went on longer than that. So that was one of the pieces that people found interesting, and unfortunately. So we also, we are now giving funds for the Serving New Mexico Fund. This is for your employees. This is for hardship for your employees. And if you know of a particular employee that's going through hardship because they've been laid off because of something else, I would really appreciate you sharing this with them. We only have $10,000 in that account. And I'm just gonna give it away until it's gone. But it's really important to me that you guys, who are my good members, the people that follow what we do, I really want to make sure that your employees are getting this. So we cut our first 2 checks this week, and they're going to a couple of very, what do I want to say, grateful folks. And so I'm happy we can do this. But we also, if people ask you what they can do and they want to know what they can do for your servers, please send them to this fund. We are going to get the money out to these folks, but we don't have a whole lot in there. So the more we can share this, the more we can share it with our family and friends, the better off we are. And coronavirus resources, you know where our page is, and then we're doing our daily calls. So one thing I wanted to show you is I got this sent to me from somebody today, and it's the U.S. Department of Treasury. And it's we'll send this out in the email tomorrow, but assistance for small businesses, there's so this is just really quick. The loans are fully forgiven. You must keep the employees on payroll or rehire quickly. And I don't know, so I have a question also. If obviously you're not going to rehire someone before you get this loan, so I don't know how quickly you have to rehire them, but certainly I think it's important to do that. Anyway, I just wanted you to see this. Where did I go? This page, and again, we'll send it out tomorrow, assistance for small businesses. And you can send this part to your lenders if you're a lender, if you're a borrower, or the application can be found here as well. So we'll send that out to you guys tomorrow in the email. I've got some questions here. Do we have documentation to verify that one of the 6 qualifying reasons has been met? Oh, I believe you're talking about this. And you're talking about the 6 qualifying reasons. I don't know how to make this bigger. Oh. That's not making it bigger. I can only go that big on this. So the qualifying reasons for leave: an employee is entitled to take leave related to COVID-19 if the employee is unable to work, including unable to telework, because the employee is subject to the federal, state, or local quarantine or isolation related to COVID, has been advised by a health care provider to self-quarantine, and is seeking medical diagnosis. I think under the circumstances, if number 2 and 3, I have to tell you, my daughter likely had COVID and she couldn't get tested. Her doctor gave her a note and she couldn't get tested anywhere. This is not New Mexico, this is Colorado, but I don't think you need to require a doctor's note. So I'm gonna say no.
I'm sorry to hear that that was the case. That's daunting.
It is daunting, and I just think right now what they're telling people, and by the way, she's 25 years old. She had bad symptoms for about 3 days, and then she's over it. She's on the other side. She's good, but yeah, but I thought it was interesting. She works for a doctor. She had a doctor's note to get tested, and she couldn't find a place to test her. I think that's happening a lot, and they actually told her that if it wasn't going to change the outcome of her sickness, that she shouldn't even try to get tested. So I don't think you can require a doctor's note, or and the other thing about these employee rights is that this expanded family and medical leave and the paid sick leave is going to be paid back to the employer at some point. Let's see. So other good resources, Patrick. Okay, yes, I saw the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I had it up for a while today, but it was a very good resource. Can you share the link to the page that I just put on the screen? Oh. So you need the link to that page? For my staff, it's home.treasury.gov/cares. So did I see on the last screen that the CARE funding will be through an SBA lender? That's my understanding right now, is that you'll be going to your banker for that SBA loan under the CARES Act.
Hey, Carol.
Yes.
This is Patrick from the Cowgirl again. In meeting with our CPA today, who's, we like her a lot and we've been doing business with her for 27 years. She thinks that one of the big calculations is to understand, that this year, having been our CPA for this many years, that we should plan for a loss, that next year we should probably be, this is her crystal ball, but it was something that was insightful for us, have the EIDL loan cover whatever the loss is. She's very much a fiscal conservative, which we appreciate. Have the PPP loan in place for the payroll stuff, and then calculate that if there's any profits in 2021 to use that for lost wages for the people that are working for less, and that really don't expect to be up to our current payroll until 2022. That was just her advice in the whatever it's worth category.
So I want to correct something there, Patrick, is that if you have an EIDL loan, you can't get the PPP loan.
Well,
And
that's not, okay, this is one of the big questions. And the way I understand it, from the Small Business Owner's Guide right here, is that you can have them both in place as long as they're for different things, as long as the money is being used for different things. So some of the monies can be being used for all the payroll. Oh, no, excuse me. I'm referring to the wrong document. I'm sorry. I'm not an attorney, so I get my documents mixed up, even those guys do. I'm referring to the U.S. Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship. And on their facts for the PPP loan, what it says, because this has been something of some confusion, and I'm really glad you brought it up. But it says you can't take an EIDL loan and a PPP loan for the same purposes. The remaining portions of an EIDL loan for purposes other than those laid out in a loan forgiveness term for a PPP loan would remain a loan. If you took advantage of an emergency EIDL grant, that would be subtracted, and you would be able to refinance the EIDL into the PPP. So they're kind of, you can have one and then fold it into the other, I guess.
Yes, and the good thing about getting the EIDL loan first is that you get that $10,000 grant. That's
right. Right, but that grant is subtracted from the amount forgiven under the PPP, is what it says here.
Yes. Okay.
So does that make sense? So if you have an EIDL loan, this is what I'll just read you exactly what it says because it helped clarify things for me. It says, if you received an EIDL loan related to COVID-19 between January 31st, 2020 and the date at which the PPP becomes available, you will be able to refinance the EIDL into the PPP for loan forgiveness purposes. However, you may not take out an EIDL and a PPP for the same purposes. Does that make sense?
Mud. Thank you.
Well, the way our CPA and I have interpreted that is that you can, so we're just trying to calculate that we're going to need 3 to 4 months of operational cost when we open back up because the level of business will not be the same. And so that we're going to calculate, we're going to get an EIDL loan, or we're considering getting an EIDL loan for that amount, and then use it just for operating expenses other than that 8-week forgiveness PPP loan intention stuff, and then also get a PPP loan and fold the EIDL loan into it that won't be being used for the same PPP loan purposes. That made it even worse, huh?
No, well, I'm hoping that tomorrow when we're talking to an accountant, they'll be able to shed some light on this, and just know that we're all figuring this out right now. That it was very clear to me when the National Restaurant Association did their overview of this last Friday that.
Right, I was with you on that one.
Yeah, and you couldn't take those two loans at the same time, but clarification is coming. And one of the things that we talked about with the National Restaurant Association today is that they are asking for specific clarification for our industry on a lot of what came out, just because people are confused.
Great. Well, whenever that clarification comes up, we'll go from there.
Yes, yes. But I do think it's a good idea to start an EIDL loan now, because I don't even know that you can start a PPP loan yet. So if you have an SBA loan, it's best if you work directly with your lender on the loan process. I have already asked them to delay loan payments, which they're doing for 6 months. Right. Okay, good. Good. If you already have an SBA loan. I think you're actually better off if you already have an SBA loan or an SBA lender. If someone says they have a cough from an itchy throat, but they think it's only allergies, do we let them come to work at our restaurant? You know what you can do is, under these rules, and this is just something I heard, I haven't had it confirmed, but you can take people's temperature. You can take their temperature as they walk in your door.
On an HR call that I was on, Carol, yes, as long as it is specific to COVID-19 and COVID-19 symptoms, then you as a company are covered. If you just say, how are you feeling? That does not count. That gets into HIPAA practices. So you have to be very specific, and you cannot discriminate. So if you're going to take temperatures, everybody gets their temperature taken, not just one person.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So somebody said they applied for an EIDL. I applied for the EIDL before the CARES Act came out. My banker told me today that it clearly states if we applied for the initial emergency disaster relief program that we would not be eligible to apply for the CARES Act. Is there any clarification? So again, hopefully the CPA we have on tomorrow will be able to clarify this. If not, I will get clarification from the National Restaurant Association if there is clarification on that. I keep hearing that you can fold one loan into the other. So if you've already got the EIDL loan, you could fold it into the PPP loan. So let's just keep that out there as a really good question. Oh, and then Patrick.
Yes.
Would you email me what you were reading from?
I'm replying to that group right now, the U.S. Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship, and I also put in a few other resources that I've been working out of, but I'm putting that up right this minute.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, it's my pleasure.
So Matt, you said you saw that the PPP loan can't start until April 3rd and to apply as soon as funds are limited. So I can't imagine that they're going to have this fund available by April 3rd, but what are you hearing?
Well, I just happened to see that as you were scrolling through things. It was somewhere where you showed it, and it said that that it wasn't, you couldn't start the application process till the 3rd.
Oh, I see. So when to apply? Starting April 3rd, small businesses and sole proprietorships can apply. Starting April 10th, independent contractors and self-employed individuals can apply. Yeah, so there is a funding.
That's what I saw.
Yeah, yeah. And that is for the payroll protection. So you can apply through any existing SBA 7A lender or through the federally insured depository institution, which is FDIC, so a bank, credit union, and other regulated lenders. Yeah, so that is what you saw. That comes from the Department of Treasury. I hope they're right.
Hey, Carol?
Yeah.
This is Patrick from the Cowgirl again. If we keep rehire our employees quickly, and then the 8-week period ends, are we allowed to furlough them again? And there's not enough business to keep them all on. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I don't think you have a choice.
That's right? I don't. Right. So it's going to be a little hard to entice them because they've missed a week and then they get rehired and then they might miss another week on the other side in the unemployment, electronic unemployment line.
Well, and part of the big problem with that is that they have to skip a week, right? So there's that first week that they don't get any unemployment, and now they're getting, and I don't even know when the $600 a week starts.
Or ends. Do you know where it ends? How long does that go for, that?
I think it's 8 weeks,
division?
but
8
I
weeks.
don't know.
I don't know either.
36 weeks, I don't know. So, okay, thank you. No, okay, the economic.
Yeah, $600 goes through July 31st. I saw something on it yesterday.
Okay.
Hey, Carol, this is Minerva Paez.
Yes.
I have a question on the EIDL loan. I'd previously been unable to get on their website to start the application process. Finally, today is the first time I was able to get in, and I started filling out the application. Now, I don't have my fingers on these numbers that they're asking for the prior year of gross sales, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm trying to get that information from my CPA. However, until I fill in those numbers, I can't click onto the next page on the online website. And I don't see where it lets you save this page so that you can go back to it later. Has anybody else experienced this, or do I just need to leave that page up on my screen until everything comes to me?
I'm going to let somebody else take that. If you've
This is Matt. I applied for it, and that page, I don't know, it's so weird because I've seen two different online applications. One was a 2-page document that included that. One was a 3-page document that didn't include that, but then said that you had to fill out that document, and it was form 2202 or something like along those lines. And that was one that I just printed up. I actually mailed my application in for the EIDL loan and didn't do it online, just because it seemed like a better way to go. So it's hard to say because it's very confusing as to which is the right one we should all be using. The one that I saw today was the shorter version. It was only, you were applying for a $10,000 grant was all that one was. So I'm assuming I did the one that John Garcia talked about a couple of days ago or last week.
So Michael says in the chat, once the PPP is launched, which we hope this Friday, and the SBA lenders across the country receive the standard operating procedures regarding the implementation of the PPP, they should be ready to take on small business clients applying for the PPP. So that's lenders, right, Michael?
Yes, I had that directly from John Garcia, the SBA District Director for New Mexico, earlier this morning, just a few hours ago.
So, and then somebody else says that I believe the EIDL application updated recently, which is why it looks different. So I get that. All right, guys.
Thank you. I have to jump off now. So thanks very much, Carol.
Thanks to you, Minerva.
Bye-bye.
Carol, this is Allison.
Yes.
For the information of the folks on the call, just want to let you all know the governor is going to be having a press update today at 4 o'clock. And it's going to be live streamed from her Facebook page. So if y'all are interested in watching what she has to say, it's going to be there.
Do you have any preview for what she's going to say?
I have no idea.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting. This is the first one we haven't really had an idea what she was going to say, but it is at 4 o'clock today. And I don't have much else to talk to you guys about. I know we can go back and forth on some of this, but honestly, tomorrow I think we're going to get some better instruction on this.
I can, if you all want, give just kind of a brief update of what's happening on the alcohol sales front.
Sure.
Okay, so I've had a couple of conversations with legislators. One being Senator Griggs called me today. He's been trying to work with the governor regarding selling alcohol in the takeout or delivery model. And her problem with that is she feels that her executive power here for the emergency powers does not include expanding or changing anything legislatively. And so she doesn't feel she has the emergency powers to do that. We were trying to look at maybe the recorking legislation that we have and see if that somehow can be interpreted to allow a bottle of wine to be sold with a purchase of a takeout meal. So we're still working on that. Several legislators have been trying to talk to her and trying to get through on this. Senator Peter Wirth is another one who's working on this, but it's just a matter of interpreting what her emergency powers are. So that's what's going on there. As far as restaurants that have dispenser licenses that have package, if your package is still intact, you should still be able to sell package. And if you have any questions on that, I would encourage you to contact Andy Vallejos at ABC to see if indeed you do have package ability. But that's what I have to report on the alcohol sales front at this time.
Good. Well, I appreciate that, and I got to tell you guys, our campaign on that, we did an excellent job, and it's still going, and the governor and legislators are still getting our information. So don't stop now, and just know that people are getting the message. And
they are getting the message. They certainly want to help in however they can. It's just that several states have given their governor power to change statute in an emergency. New Mexico has not. And so that's part of the struggle that our governor is facing right now.
So that's one reason we don't have a shelter in place. We just have a stay-at-home order.
Right. Yeah.
She doesn't have the ability to tell us to shelter in place. She only has a suggestive ability to tell us to stay at home. So. Right. All right, well, I'm going to let everybody go. George, you asked a question. Are you sure that the loan amount reimbursement is payroll plus tips reported? I am sure about that tips are included as one of the things that can be paid through this. Rent, interest, utilities, group healthcare, and retirement as well. So I think that when you calculate your two and a half times, I think you include all of those things that went into your payroll, and that becomes what your loan amount can be.
Carol, there is one other question that we hadn't answered yet on the chat.
Where is that?
It's from Natalie. It's about the insurance. Some restaurateurs are suing their insurance company. They refuse to cover the COVID loss of business, although she does see a clause in her insurance contract.
So yeah, there are restaurateurs that believe that their insurance, business interruption insurance should be covered under COVID. If you believe that that you have business interruption insurance and it should cover COVID, the National Restaurant Association is asking for relief in the next relief bill that has to do with this. and basically making the insurers pay for that, since you've been paying for it all these years and you really thought it was for some emergency like this. But we'll have to see, because some insurers are very careful about how they write those clauses, and pandemics are sometimes specifically written out. So you might look at your insurance, and if you have business interruption insurance, just look at it and see if it's what I want to say, if it's specifically written in there. And remember that insurers, they are always going to tell you that that's not insured, right? And you have to press them in order to make sure that things are insured. And sometimes that means you have to press them with the threat of a lawsuit too. So if you specifically think that your business interruption insurance should cover this, then you need to talk to your insurance company. And if they tell you it's not, then you need to get a lawyer. And more power to you if you do.
We had that same dialogue with our insurance company. And of course, they said pandemics and active wars are not included.
Right, but I bet that's not, an active war might be included, but I'll bet pandemic isn't included in there. So just know that you have some recourse possibility at this point, and that the National Restaurant Association is working on that as well, because I mean, I think this is one of those cases where we thought we had coverage, and who's to say if we did or not. There and there's some major restaurateurs in California that are suing their companies at this point, but they've got the lawyers telling them that it was in fact covered and that it should be paid. So all right. If we're selling veggies and other goods that would be covered by EBT, should we look into see if we can accept that for the time being? Yes, you should. And we had some information on that. My staff, do you guys remember where that EBT information was? I'm going to bring up our website and see. Let me do this. So Robert, your question is, do we pay servers the tips that they would have received? If you're getting a PPP loan, you can include tips in that loan amount. And I'm going to look really quickly for EBT on this page, but if not, I know something came to me about EBT and restaurants being able to take it if they're selling groceries. Let me look into that, and I'll get it on tomorrow's newsletter.
Carol, on this issue of selling groceries, I'm still trying to get some clarification from the Environment Department. He's basically telling us that if you have packaged food, you can do that. However, groceries is very, very broad. And so I'm not sure that that restaurants being able to sell groceries with a restaurant license is going to be acceptable, but I'm waiting for a response back from the secretary.
Okay, and until we get some clarification, sell groceries.
If
probably more sanitary than any grocery store out there. Anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate you being here today. Don't forget to watch the governor on Facebook Live and see what she has to say. She's usually about 15 minutes late for those Facebook Live things. So just keep that in mind. You're going to see a lot of dead air until she comes on. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Bye. See you tomorrow.